see an architectural relic. For me, I see a garden. I see a vast landscape with crown vetch, which is considered a weed, with Japanese brome sedge, which is also considered a weed, and goldenrod about to bud. I'm not the only one that saw this place as a garden. This gentleman here is Rick Dark. He's a horticulturalist who honed his skills at Longwood Gardens, and he discovered Carrie Furnace and the wild gardens when he was actually commissioned by the Pittsburgh Botanical Garden to go out and survey their site. What he did was he actually chartered a plane, and they flew around, but then the pilot said, "You've got to check out this site too. While we're en route, let's fly over Carrie Furnace." He flew over Carrie Furnace and was blown away, and for the last 5 years has been working with the Rivers of Steel on documenting these wild gardens. But documenting the gardens is one thing, and understanding their makeup is another. You know, when it comes to maintenance, how do you actually preserve a site? You know, they're thinking about vegetation that's growing on the structure, thinking about invasives. Rivers of Steel doesn't have a master plan. They really have absolutely no idea what's in their portfolio of plants, let alone materials. So they actually called them master gardeners. So this is actually a field right next to the building in June. This is an echium, which is a viper's blood loss, and a malolotus, which is a beautiful yellow spring clover. And this is what they had. So if you sent out maintenance to just go and plow a field, you wouldn't really know what was actually growing and evolving in this incredibly rich landscape. So the master gardeners were called in. The master gardeners of Allegheny County, I am one of them. And we were actually called in to take a survey of all of the vegetation on site and think about the grasses, think about the weeds that we all know in our backyard. Think about this here is actually, you know, any maintenance person would plow this over. But this is verbascum, which actually grows to this stunning plume with petals that are peach and orange. They really create this incredible backdrop or incredible front stage to the backdrop of Carrie Furnace. So when we're thinking about how we were going to survey the land, we set out to develop 10 survey plots around the site of Carrie Furnace. And we set up 10 by 15 plots that we would then go back week after week and collect the vegetation, take photographs, document, do soil analysis, and then we designated different areas. This is a little hard to see, but rather than name these sites after what they were in the steel industry, we started calling them Western Meadow and Eastern Meadow and aerial gardens, and really cataloging what's been growing and how and why. And the idea is, so here's a soil analysis of the site. With steel, there's a lot of byproduct with coke, which is, creates a very alkalinic soil. And so we wanted to know what could possibly grow, what are the pioneer species. And so you can see here, well actually you can't really see, but it's a very high alkaline soil. We also collected all of this information in a database, you know, going through site by site, percentage of ground cover within our survey site, and, you know, really preparing all this information to help Rivers of Steel understand what they actually had and how to maintain, but also to disseminate information about what a weed is or what a wild garden is. You know, master gardeners are charged with education, that's their role, and it's usually with a paper product, with posters, with information booths, with very happy, smiling people ready to answer all your questions. But the site was really rich in history, and you know, we couldn't necessarily just do paper to tell the story of steel to this ecological evolution. What was the product that we could actually use? What could we design that would harken back to the days of the men and women actually, working in the steel, and then tell this sort of evolving landscape. So this is the material of the site. This is why it's there. This is, you know, one of the last bastions of our heritage still maintained in the city. So we had to think, this is the material that we will use to tell our story. We will use iron, we will cast iron, and through artists and community groups, we'll actually host a small iron pour, and we'll create plaques that tell the story, that translate the information from our spreadsheets and the information from the soil tests into a tactile form that people can then go visit and see the connection to site. So we worked with the Hunt Institute for Botanical Documentation. matching our data with all of the illustrations of what's out there. And we also worked with a host of so many other partners, including CMU, the Department of Sculpture, Ed Parrish, who has a studio in Lawrenceville, Carbon Arts, who runs a really incredible program. We designed plaques in Illustrator, and this is, it's just, the black is actually raised, but we developed 9 plaques that told the story of early succession, late succession, how soils formed, and then these plaques were then sent off to CMU, and students then took that information, put it into Rhino, milled them out on the CNC, which is really phenomenal for these kids who are so technologically based to then translate this material to a very tactile art form, which is the pour itself. So we had all of the plaques milled, and you can see that this is it. And then the master gardeners and the students from CMU smashed up iron, 1,600 pounds to go to those plaques. Started making sand molds for all of these plaques, and if you don't know about the process, it's really fascinating and takes a lot longer than 20 seconds. And so over the last couple of weeks, we've been out there preparing for this iron pour. And then on October 25th at the Carrie Furnace, we'll be pouring all of these plaques. And so the plaques will be poured, and then in the spring they'll actually be installed throughout the site, and they're designed so people can take rubbings. So they're actually, there's the impression and they're inlaid, and that's it.